parents of a 4-year-old boy that fatally shot himself with a gun are facing charges for negligence in connection to his death. The incident occurred around 12:05 p.m. on the 6th of July, when the police were dispatched to 141 Manitou Avenue in Manitou Springs, Colorado, on a report of a shot being fired. The authorities arrived at the scene, where they found an unresponsive child inside a parked car, with a gunshot wound to his head and blood coming out of his mouth. The event unfolded when the young boy was in the vehicle with his 25-year-old mother Ashlyn Perez and his younger sibling. The car was parked outside a marijuana dispensary called Maggie's Farm. The father, 26-year-old Carlos Perez, went inside to make some purchases. While this was happening, the boy found a gun in the front of the car. He picked up the gun and he discharged it. The 4-year-old boy was pronounced dead at the scene. When Ashlyn was interviewed, she told the deputies that she saw the gun inside the car earlier that day, and it was on the open dashboard cubby. The boy unlocked himself from his booster seat in the back seat, which Ashlyn said he had done before, and she told her son to rebuckle, but he refused and climbed into the driver's seat of the car. She said she turned to look out the window in the opposite direction of the boy when she heard a loud boom. When she looked back at him, she noticed his eyes were looking in opposite directions. When Carlos was interviewed, he said he got out of the car to purchase marijuana, and the kids were left in the care of his wife, and they were both secure in their car seats. He said he had shown the same gun to the 4-year-old boy the day before, but it was unloaded. Carlos mentioned that the boy had been interested in guns in the past, and one of the parents would take the gun away. He'd also told the boy not to play with it. The parents have been arrested and are charged with negligent abuse, resulting in the death of their son. They've been held at the El Paso County Jail as the investigation into the matter continues. A man was charged this week with involuntary manslaughter of his 4-year-old son, who died after ingesting fentanyl. It all began on the 7th of May, when 36-year-old Van Redding of Halton Street, Carnegie, Pennsylvania, picked up his son Avant Redding from the boy's mother's home at Ridge Avenue in Braddock to spend the day together. They first went to a family birthday party at 1 p.m. and later stopped by a McDonald's at 8 p.m. They returned to Redding's apartment, where the boy ate his Happy Meal at the coffee table in the living room. He began to feel unwell and started throwing up and looked unsteady on his feet. Redding panicked and rushed his son to the emergency section of the St. Clair Hospital, where he had a car accident along the way but continued driving. Shortly after arriving at the medical centre, he was pronounced dead. The police confronted Redding about reports of a hit and run. He initially told him his son was ill after eating off the coffee table and took him to the hospital. After the boy's death, Redding consented to a search of his residence, where police found medical marijuana on the coffee table. Redding led them to a drop ceiling panel in the bedroom, where investigators found stamp bags, a baggie of white powder and a bundle of cash. He told police that he sold the white powder from his home, and lab tests showed fentanyl on some of the plastic bags that were recovered by police. The medical examiner's office concluded that Avant Redding died of fentanyl toxicity, and that the manner of death was accidental. Redding has been charged with involuntary manslaughter, endangering the welfare of a child, and possession with intent to deliver. He was denied bail and is scheduled for a preliminary hearing on the 9th of July. A man who was shot with his own gun while beating his ex-girlfriend has been charged with domestic battery. The incident occurred around 11:30 a.m. on the 27th of June, when authorities were called to the Sahara Las Vegas complex. In the hall of the 22nd floor, they found 33-year-old Brandon Dangerfield on the floor with a gunshot wound to his stomach. The events unfolded when Dangerfield showed up uninvited to his ex-girlfriend's birthday party. It was a small gathering with a few friends in a hotel room. The two dated for about half a year, but recently she tried to keep him away from her. Dangerfield had a violent past and stalked her through social media. Upon arrival, Dangerfield tried dragging his ex out of the room after threatening to shoot all of them if she didn't come out. He proceeded to choke her, hit her in the face and dragged her face across the carpet, causing swelling to both her eyes and a rug burn to her right temple. The woman's friends exited the room to intervene to defend her. During the scuffle, Dangerfield hit the women in the face, but they were able to grab Dangerfield's gun and shoot him. Dangerfield was taken to the Sunrise Hospital in a critical condition, where he received surgery. He's now been held at the Clark County Detention Center and he's been charged with domestic battery by strangulation. The authorities are still trying to make contact with the woman's friends. The woman who pulled the trigger could be facing charges of battery with the use of a deadly weapon resulting in substantial bodily harm. A man and a woman have been arrested after pulling a gun on a McDonald's manager at a drive-thru. The incident occurred on the 4th of July, located at 122 East Ritchie Road in Houston, Texas. Video surveillance captures the duo, 23-year-old David Guillory and 25-year-old Trachea Cohen, displaying a firearm in the drive-thru towards the manager during a dispute over salt on their fries. The suspects then drove off. The authorities were alerted to the matter, and a short time later they were able to track down the pair and found a gun inside their vehicle. Cohen was already out on bond on a charge of aggravated robbery with a weapon at the time of the incident. They were arrested and charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. They're held in custody at the Harris County Jail, each on a $10,000 bond. A passenger had his face slashed after asking a stranger to turn his loud music down while aboard a train in New York City. The incident occurred just after midnight on Monday the 5th of July. A 37-year-old man was on a train approaching Grand Central Terminal when he confronted another man who had his music blasting out loudly and asked him to turn it down. Instead of lowering the volume, the man became upset and pulled out a pocket knife and retaliated by saying, "Do you have a problem?" He then proceeded to slash the victim's face, cutting his upper lip before the attacker exited the train at the next stop. The victim waited to get off at the following station before departing and calling 911. He was taken to the Will Cornell Medical Center with non-life-threatening injuries. The authorities continue to search for the suspect as the investigation into the matter continues. Florida couple, 28-year-old Carly Awas and 38-year-old Andrew Awas, have each been charged with 7 counts of child neglect. The authorities were called to the couple's home in Cape Carroll on the night of the 27th of June after a person reported bruising on a child's back. The investigators went inside the 4-bedroom residence where 7 children lived and found that the place reeked of urine and feces. The living room and kitchen were extremely dirty with food and liquid stains all over the floors and countertops. There were dirty diapers all over the floor and children didn't have clean clothes. The kids were found sleeping on filthy feces-covered floor without pillows or blankets. Neighbours often stepped in to stop several unsupervised toddlers in diapers from sprinting into a nearby canal. Several neighbours also heard the parents swearing and yelling at the kids. Cape Coral Police called the living conditions at the couple's home deplorable and completely unsuitable for children. The children were removed from the premises. The parents were arrested but were released from the Lee County Jail on a $35,000 bond and are not allowed to see their children. Arraignment is scheduled for the 2nd of August. A 37-year-old Kentucky woman was charged with theft after she was found with a stolen vehicle on Monday morning on the 5th of July. The authorities received an anonymous tip that Stephanie Stevens was on Boyd Street in Hopkinsville with a vehicle she had stolen the previous day. As officers questioned her, she reportedly had a medical issue and she had to be taken to the local hospital. After being cleared, she was taken to the Christian County Jail and charged with theft by unlawful taking.